Hi, this is Ms. Bala, your Fulton virtual instructor for physical science. Today I wanted to go over the lab titled Motion and offer you some guidance in constructing a scientific argument, especially in writing a lab report that is of this type: claim, evidence, and reasoning, called as the CER report. Okay, so let's first take a look at the objective of the lab. So let's listen to the instructor.
Welcome to the lab. We're going to explore motion by determining the speed and acceleration of an object through a virtual lab experiment. By the end of this virtual lab, you will have examined how the slope of a racetrack affects the speed of an object that's moving along the racetrack, similar to these cars. Let's begin, or as they say, let the races begin.
Okay, so you listened to it, and the instructor raised two questions, one of which was a general question and the other one a little bit more specific. So in this template, under question, you would either write the general question, which is, if you paid attention, she said that we are going to gain an understanding of the speed, acceleration of the car that is moving down a ramp, and use it to describe the motion. So that could be a general question. Or she was a little bit more specific later on, because she said that she's going to change something in the experiment and see how that change affects something else. So that could be your more specific question. So the specific question is always written as, how does the independent variable affect the dependent variable? This could be your specific question. Independent variable is the one thing, that the quantity that you change in the experiment. So go back and think about what was she trying to change in the experiment. And if you change that, what does it affect? That is your dependent variable. Okay, what are the quantities that you're going to measure that are likely to change as a result of changing the independent variable? So this is how your specific question can be. Then let's go to the claim. For the claim should directly answer your questions. So while we're writing this, let's also make sure that we understand the rubric. So let's see what the rubric says. We only want to look at the exemplary. So the scientific question is clearly written. The claim demonstrates a deep understanding of the topic and addresses the relationship between the independent and the dependent variables. So therefore, if your question is worded as, how does your independent variable affect the dependent variable? Remember, you have to insert the quantities under independent variable and dependent variable. Because I don't want to write the question for you, I'm going to leave it so that you can go back and write that question. So your claim should directly answer the general or the specific question that you have written. So if you wrote this specific question, then your claim should be, well, if I change the slope or the height of the ramp, then this is going to affect my dependent variable like this. So that should be your claim. You can make several claims. You could make a claim that answers the general question. For example, you could make a claim about the motion, the type of motion the car experiences as it moves down the ramps. For example, you can say, well, the car is likely to move down at a constant speed, or an increasing speed, or a decreasing speed. So you can make a claim about that. That is very general. And more specific claim would be, as you change the height, you could talk in terms of the height or the slope. So as the slope of the ramp is changed, this affects the time or the average speed, or if you know how to calculate the acceleration, you can even say this affects the acceleration in this way. So your claim can address any one of these dependent variables as you change the independent variable. So in the claim, you're directly answering the specific question. Okay, now let's move down to our next column, which is evidence. What does evidence mean? So when you do the lab in the virtual thing, you are going to collect real data about how much time the car took to go down the ramp, and you do that for 3 trials, right? So your evidence is your numerical data that you collected. So your data can simply be restricted to either time, and you want to talk of the average time, or you could find the average speed, or if you know how to calculate the acceleration, you could also calculate the acceleration. So you could do this for, remember, you're setting up 2 different heights of the ramp. So you could do this for the lesser height and the greater height, and then you could compare these values. So you could make a data table, or you could simply refer to the data and speak about it in paragraphs, because there is only like 2 different heights. If there are more than 2 different heights that you do, you could also plot a graph. So you can make a simple data table like height versus time, or height versus average speed, or height versus acceleration, and use that as your evidence to answer your claim. And remember, your evidence may prove or disprove your claim. It can be either way. Okay, if you made a wrong claim and your evidence gives you proof that your claim is not right, but that's perfectly okay. Okay. Then come to the last column, which is justification, reasoning of the evidence. So in this, you talk about the scientific principles that back up your evidence. So if you discovered that the car is going down at an increasing speed, then you want to think about what causes that increase in speed. What principle do I know that helps me understand that the car should go down at an increasing speed? So you think of forces and acceleration, and you use the scientific terms to explain your evidence. So think of what scientific principles can explain your evidence. So this is how you write the lab report. So if you have any more questions, you can always feel free to contact me. I hope this helps you complete this report. Thank you.